Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Yogyakarta. Good morning, Indonesia, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second day of International Week 2021. Finally, we're back in actions and we're come back stronger than ever. Well, we are having a lockdown wherever you are. I hope that you are staying home and staying safe. I know that during this time of pandemic, our physical world is very quiet due to lockdown. However, our virtual world is busier than ever. The internet is bursting with workshops, shoppings, meetings, and just like what we're having today, summer school. Well, amid slowing economic growth, COVID-19 has led to a surge in e-commerce and accelerated digital transformations. As lockdowns become the new normal, business and consumers increasingly went digital, providing and purchasing more goods and services online, raising e-commerce share of global retail trade from 14% in 2019 about 70% in 2020. Well, my name is Shima and I'm going to be the facilitators of today's sessions. Well, the pandemic outbreak maybe has led to a revised growth forecast for the global economy. However, it also brings about a lot of changes, which is very positive. It encourages innovations, not only technologically, but also socially. Well, as the cities and countries have been asking population to stay at home, more people have turned into their computers and gadgets as lifeline tools to substitute in-person activities. Well, hence, we also need to sharpen and increase the access of reliable digital infrastructure to support the new economy that now has moved from the physical realm to a more digital or virtual realm. That's why we have the expert in this field today that kind of dive deeper into the intersections of digitalizations as well as economics. And she has been working with the government, with the academics, the NGO. Well, everything, you named it, she has done it. But before we kick off the sessions, I would like to greet and introduce you to our lecturer today, no other than Professor Sri Adiningsih. Welcome back to our faculty, Professor. Well, she earned her doctorate degree in economics from the University of Illinois, as well as her master degree in the economics policy from the same university. And she graduated from Faculty of Economics and Business UGM in economic development. And she has been awarded a lot of awards and has been working with various organizations. Just like I said before, you named it, she has done it. Well, she has been the advisory team or the expert for the Ministry of Trade in the World Trade, specializing in the negotiations in agriculture. She is also being dictated as the commissary of Indosat Ooredoo, and she is also one of the professors and researchers in Faculty of Economics and Business. Of course, she's also been working as a supervisory board in the Indonesian Central Bank, Bank Indonesia, from 2013 up to 2019. Her expertise is ranging from central bank up to monetary policy up to digitalizations. Well, I'm going to say hi. Good morning, Professor Adiningsih. How do you
Good
do?
morning. Good morning, Mbak Sima. It's good. Thanks God that healthy and this morning could meet all of you for the I-Week, discussion, lecture, and activities, we are doing now. Yeah. Good morning. Good
Oh,
morning.
we are so honored and we're very excited to have you here. Welcome back to UGM virtually. I know you've been busy working with the government and everything, and it's truly an honor to have you back. Well, without further ado, I'm sure that you want to discuss things further with Professor Adiningsih, and I'm going to present this floor for Professor Adiningsih. Professor, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mbak Sima. Wow, for the generous introduction. Still, inconvenient to speak of this, but anyway, thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm glad that this morning with all of, there are around 30 students who join this lecture. this morning. I hope that you have got the, PPT, the material. If not, I believe you could ask the material for this lecture to the organizer. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's great we could meet this morning, and for my session, actually, I would discuss, explain to all of you about COVID-19 impact on digital economy. Focusing much more on Indonesian case, of course. Yeah, I would, share my material so you could see well better what is I am going to present, to discuss. Let me give me some time. Okay. Anyway, this is the material. COVID-19 impact on digital economy. Yeah, and of course, when we are talking like COVID-19, we have experienced, and our life has changed, lifestyle, and even like schooling has changed because of, that like the pandemic we are experienced now. Of course, it's not all of us experiencing this big pandemic, serious pandemic like now, because in the world, if you take a look, like there are many pandemics. It's not just a new thing we are facing now. The worst like what we face now, actually like Spanish influenza, 1918 until 1919, with casualty, I hope much higher than what we are facing now, I hope, because now, like COVID-19, the data until July 13, actually the positive, more than 100 million, but the death, more than 4 million, might be the newest data would higher. And also, but take a look, there are many, pandemic in the world, but not as big as what we are facing now. Of course, in Indonesia, now has been more than 3 million positive. But what is important and now becoming our discussion is that, because of the pandemic, and so, transmitted so easily, and also the fatality for the person who, got the infected, That's why we have to change our life, what we call it new normal, Like now we have to wear mask, wash hand often, social distancing, stay home and clean, shop online, less cash, work business, study at home, less traveling, and etc. And yes, that may now we use more digital, we use more online, and we use more local because of the pandemic. Just would love to share with all of you, just would like to give some, at least few what happened when there is big serious pandemic like what we have now, like I has mentioned before, Spanish flu, Take a look what happened in 1917, 18, economic drop significantly like what we are facing now, and then economic start recover. If we take a look like data 19, 19, 19, 20, 1921, has, you know, been actually take a look this data. After 3 years, 4 years after the pandemic actually start grew positive, but return to pre-pandemic for 5 years. Look, 1922. I do not want to say that we would face the same thing like what had been happened before, but I would like to at least give you some clue what happened when there is big pandemic hit our world. And of course, if we are talking like 1920 and 2020, totally different word, because like we are talking at the time, I believe even electricity is only in some areas, and also no internet, of course, and also medicine it's not as developed as now. So, you know, I hope that what we face now would be impacted on economic and business short term than what has been done happened before, and pandemic impact on Indonesian economy actually significantly, like take a look Indonesian GDP growth, this is before, grew positive, but then we are hit by the pandemic, quarter 1 March 2020, and then the second quarter we had hit, with contraction of economy, -5. Then, you know, the worst, I believe, I hope it has been, you know, so still actually economic growth still, you know, contraction, but lessen, and we hope that the second quarter of 2021 would be positive, that's just general view of the economic, but and then would be interested in also take like the impact of, you know, the life, like unemployment had hit, increase, significantly, even, you know, because like I has mentioned before, we have already bottoming out from the worst, so the unemployment rate, actually this is the newest data we have, has been lessening, but of course poverty rate increase around, the increasing number of poor people from 24.79 million Indonesian to 27.66 million. So increase almost 3 million, and Gini ratio national also increasing. So at least this is the situation in the economic and life, in general. Then what also interesting is that during the COVID, this data actually taken in 2020, like percentage of firms that reduce the number of permanent employees after the outbreak of the pandemic. Indonesia actually 39% firm reduce employees, but percentage firm that reduce their number of employee by more than 40%, actually 23%. So is it compared to any other countries? Yeah, take a look like Pakistan, 66% of firm reduce number of permanent employee. India 49, so Malay 42, yeah. So what happened in Indonesia? Actually, of course, if we take a look ourselves, it's really something not, not I mean, not something feel good, but compared to any other country, it's not that bad, yeah. And also, percentage of firm that reduce the number of temporary employee in Indonesia 37%. Malay 75%. So, but of course it's influence people life, yeah, because a lot of workers lay off, not work anymore, yeah. So that's of course influence household income. The data effect of COVID-19 on household income, percentage of household, yeah. Take a look, Indonesia. The blue here actually increase, yeah, the household income. The red actually no change, the same. This green decreased by 1 to 25%, and etc. Indonesian case. So, of course, only very few people, their income increase. 16%, their income stays still the same. But this one, yeah, more than 80% of Indonesian household decrease its income, yeah. It's not good. Yeah, it's not good because 80%. Yeah. Philippines also highest, more than 80. Yeah, it's higher than us. But some country like Malaysia around 50%. Yeah. And if we take a look this data, like percentage of firm that reduce sales in the first half of 2020 in year-to-year comparison, yeah. Take a look here, Indonesia, this case, yeah. Blue is percentage firm that experience sales decline, yeah. Take a look, 76% of firm in Indonesia decline its sales, yeah, and 44% firm experience more than 40% sales decline. So let's make that a lot of them in Indonesia have difficulty problem. Yeah, that's what happened. And if we take a look like on Indonesia worker, of course, most of the layoff worker, number big one like DKI Jakarta, ya, dan Jawa Barat, dan Jawa Tengah, Jawa Timur. DIY not that big because also the population in DIY is not as big as like compared to East Java or West Java, yeah. And then the changes in household expenditure, if you take a look here, because I would, take a look one here, household income more than 80%, Indonesian household income decreasing. But if we take a look like household expenditure, actually, this is increase, even 33% increase, 35% no change, the same, yeah. So only around 30% decreasing expenditure, meaning what? The income increase more than 80%, but decreasing expenditure only around 30%. Maybe they use their saving to spend, to buy things during the pandemic, yeah. And what of the type of unexpected expenditure, yeah. If you take a look the data, actually 54.4 used for like to pay utility bills. Healthcare product, yeah. Household cleaning product, yeah. Overcharge for food, yeah. So, like what we expect, because we should use now healthcare product a lot. So, yeah, and that's what happened. So that's the background of, actually economy, business, the life of the people in Indonesia, the impact of the pandemic, yeah, at least put it in your mind. So now we could discuss later, yeah. So I just mentioned that we are fortunate, yeah. It's not, sad experience we have, but at least even it's not good situation, is not make us happy. Many of us feel like confused, so do not know what to do and cannot concentrate, and even some depressing. But yeah, we still fortunate that the digital transformation is developing. Yeah, of course, you has already know, understand, and this picture and all the development in industrial revolution and society. If you following well, we actually has entering the industry 4.0, where cyber physical system, Internet of Things, network develop fast, yeah. And since in English, yeah, industrial 1.0 with steam machine, yeah, and then 2.0 with mass production, 3.0 automation, computer, and etc. Actually, in general, we could say that the industrial revolution, what we expect, we experience from 1.0 to 3, 4, actually make our life develop, and becoming more advanced. We have better life, yeah. And of course, also actually in Industry 4.0, it is expected and that our life should be better in general in the world because supposed to be efficiency and new method in every value chain. Even there is disruption on every industry, especially the sharing economy, like of course, Grab, Gojek, yeah, Airbnb, easily accessible information. Just I believe that now you are so good Googling and try to find something if you do not understand well in this lecture. Employment shift, of course, would be happen the loss of privacy or boundaries because so easily to to know somebody, someone, you would just using search engine, whatever you use. Yeah, and of course, not society, not country, not people develop in the same level. Yeah, that's why there is society 1.0 to 5.0. 1.0 is hunter-gatherer society. I don't know whether we still have it in Asia, but maybe in Africa still there are some hunter-gatherer society. But of course in Asia and in Indonesia, society 2.0, agrarian societies, there still a lot in Indonesia. And industrial society, of course, yeah, we could see it. Some of Indonesian also industrial society, information society. Now we are started to boom there. I believe that the one who takes the courses actually you are in most of it in that level or even in that super smart society. But what I would love to say is that now in Asia and Indonesia, actually in one country, one area, there's access from maybe 1.0 until 5.0. But I believe if we talk like Indonesia, a lot of Indonesian society is 2.0, 3.0, yeah. Only in big city, a lot of millennials, might be knows more and more information society, but yeah, for access, yeah, and not just one type of society. So that's the background and the development of the digital economy, yeah, because of industrial revolution and also digitalization, online, yeah. So the development of digital economy depends, yeah, on the supporting infrastructure which is distributed more equally in Indonesia, even though there is digital divide. And what I would love to say that I have mentioned before that transformation to digital economy has been, we are fortunate during the pandemic has been developed fast in Indonesia. And of course, there are some supporting infrastructure needed to, at least develop the digital economy. And if you take a look, yeah, the most important infrastructure needed for digital economy, electricity. And in Indonesia, if you take a look, the electricity ratio in Indonesia, see, In 2015, actually only 88.3% Indonesian got electricity. Yeah. Then government worked very hard. So national electrification ratios increase. Yeah. And hopefully this year close to 100%. Why is this very important? Of course, you understand well. Electricity, very, impossible to develop digital economy. Look, yeah, DJ has been 99% Jabar, but here, take a look like some area. This one is less. Papua, 94%. Look, wow, Bali 100%, NTT 88%. So yeah, and other infrastructure is internet accessibility in Indonesia. Yeah. If you take a look internet accessibility in Indonesia, 2G, 3G, 4G, and of course more and more 4G, province, district, yeah, regency, village, more and more 4G, but still there are some 2G, and actually the level of internet you can see at it, like internet accessibility condition in school, that here less and less better. So yeah, there is digital divide, yeah, in Indonesia, the inequality, yeah, is getting better, but still there is still some digital divide. Even though if we take a look like mobile connection in Indonesia, yeah, mobile connection in Indonesia actually 125.6% of number population. So yeah, like I myself have to cellular, yeah, and also internet user has been 73.7%, getting better, increasing, and also active social media user 61.8%. So because of the pandemic, the number of mobile connection, internet user, active social media increase, yeah, in Indonesia and also in any other world, yeah. So you know that at least infrastructure getting better. It's all over Indonesia, getting at least more spread, more accessible even in the rural area. That's why actually when we are talking like digitalization, digital economy becoming, can really help with online business. Also for us, we could use online in schooling, in working, in business, in social. So it's very help. And that's why I has mentioned before, fortunately, we are in the transformation period. Okay, yes, that's the background. Then let's take a look the digital economy. Yeah, of course, there are a lot of experts and also my professor define what is digital economy, but that's one of it. Yeah. If you take a look, the digital economy versus the digitalized economy. Yeah. And this is one of the definition. Of course, there are many. It's been there. Yeah. Like if we take a look core. Yeah, the core. Yeah, this one. Digital IT or ICT sector. What is in hardware manufacture, information services, software, IT, consulting, telecommunication, yeah, so this is the core, yeah. And also narrow scope, what we call digital economy, including digital services, platform economy, sharing economies between here, because also gig economies between here. Yeah. And broad scope, digitalized economy. So if we take a look e-commerce, yeah, I believe that you are going to have, do you have any CEO talk with e-commerce? I don't think so. Okay, anyway. And then, of course, Industry 4.0 here, precision agriculture, algorithmic economy. So anyway, you could put a lot of things there, yeah, like fintech. Fintech, maybe here we could ask Indro Quick from PEPAS, might be this afternoon with what is their business, yeah. So I believe it's supposed to be here in broad scope. So anyway, what would I love to say that there are a lot of definition, but in general now we call it that digital economy. Yeah, core, narrow, broad scope. Yeah, usually the terminology use digital economies, including all here. Yeah, and what is interesting, of course, yeah. Actually, when we are talking like digital economy, and of course the disruption, yeah, it's not happen in one time, yeah. Suddenly, all business, all our lifestyle disrupt, change. No, yeah, but one by one. If you remember, I think 2 decades ago, yeah, because at the time the disruption, I remember detik.com and what else? Detik.com, that's one of it I still remember. Kumparan and etc. Because now almost all media mass, yeah, they also go online. Yeah. So the disruption not come all together, but one by one. Yeah. So the first disrupted, yeah, by the digitalization, actually media. Yeah. And then retail, travel. You remember before the pandemic, Bukalapak, Tokopedia, actually develop, yeah, and also travel local. What else? Travel local, I remember, yeah. Maybe you remember yesterday, yeah. Yeah, that's developed quite fast before the pandemic. But then, yeah, after pandemic, yeah, food and beverage before pandemic, there still has been some, restaurant has used online, but in general, they are not using online. But after pandemic, yeah, like education, yeah, even before pandemic, there are some education courses using online, but in general not. But now, yeah, financial services, yeah. Then finally, now almost every aspect of business, our life, one by one, entering the disruption, yeah, online, like property, health and beauty care, there is Hello Dog, yeah. Automotive might be automatic car. In some country, they have already have, but even I don't know, it has been enter Indonesia. But anyway, what I would love to say is that, you know, the disruption is not happen in one slide, everything changes. No, it's one by one. It's years, yeah. But finally, would be all disrupted by the fashion industry 4.0 or the digitalization of technology, yeah. And yeah, this is the example of digital economy. Of course, I believe you know better than me. You are the generation not millennial, yeah. Z. Okay. Anyway, if there is any question, let me take a look if there is some question here.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, we have three people in this class who want to ask you something.
Okay, please.
Good morning, Professor Sri Adiningsih.
Okay, could you mention your name and.
Okay, my name is Juan Claudio, and you can call me Theo.
I'm sorry.
My name is Theo, ma'am. You can call me Theo.
Okay.
Actually, thank you for this opportunity. I'm really pleased that could interact with you directly in this IWIC program. I'm really amazed with all of your journal, all of your speech in the internet is really meaningful, and like today's discussion is also really meaningful. And however, I've read one of your paper regarding of the unequal developments in Indonesia digital based on economy. It's really interesting that you have mentioned regarding the strategy, how to make sure that the low income groups are not left behind in this digital age. And you also explain again in this lecture. However, regarding to today's condition, we could see that some of the low income group will suffer. Moreover, for those who hard to catch up with the technology because of their income insufficiency, poor education, and so on in this pandemic. Thus, I want to ask your opinion. As the digitalization is developing well day by day, how do you think the Indonesian government could make sure that those people who live under poverty could catch up with the economic digitalization in this situation? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. I would answer you first, yeah. Yeah, I mean digital divide, and especially unequal, you know, the unequal, like digitalization in Indonesia actually happen, and you right, Theo, that actually because the inequality also in digital access, I have mentioned before that not all area in Indonesia have 3G, 4G internet connection, and also we are just talking like the technology, but also the people who live there. Of course, if you do not have income, do not have money, you cannot like buy computer, laptop, or mobile phone, or to buy tools, yeah, like to you know to by like what is internet to use internet, yeah. Anyway, it's true. That's why actually that's our challenge. Actually, like if you take a lot of startup in Indonesia, mostly come from people with more better education and also better income, yeah, in a city, yeah. So you raise issue like how the inequality would be, especially for low income, supposed not to left behind. Okay, now the situation is, of course, is not really favorable because of the pandemic. But in general, if you take a look, at least to give access for over Indonesia, government support and encourage the operator to use and provide 3G, 4G all over Indonesia. And of course, we are talking like price of connection, internet connection. Yeah, of course, for the help, we can like use better connection with, especially in city, yeah. But if you live in the rural area, would not easy, yeah. But if you take a look now, especially the pandemic, government could support for students and a lot of people for the internet user. But anyway, you raise a good question, and I do hope that because internet becoming the backbone of the digital economic and also our life in the future, we do hope that government would be able, maybe the extreme, like why not internet becoming public good? There some people think something like that. So it's free, yeah, good quality. But maybe it would take some more time to make it something like that, yeah. And I believe maybe somehow internet would be public good, yeah. But of course not now, yeah. Even in developed economy, we have still to pay for internet. That's might be the extreme case, but for Indonesian case, I think at least like electrification has been, you can find it increase and almost all over Indonesia now. And internet access also has been, at least the operator, government support, encourage them to not just to provide the 4G, 3G in the city, but also in rural area. Now, what the government has done, what I understand, of course, maybe government also have something else, yeah. Because not all the policy by government I quite understand well, but in general, yes, I think you're right. We need not just government, yeah, to encourage equal digitalization, so the low income not left behind. So I agree with you. Thank you. Maybe any other question?
May I have a question, ma'am?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Please say your name.
Yes. My name is Nico. First of all, thank you so much, ma'am, to come to this opportunity for me to have a direct question with you. So my question is about Indonesian golden age of 2045. Like before the pandemic, we are quite confident with our Indonesia golden age of 2045. But after this pandemic, it seems that we are a bit pessimistic about this. It could be a blessing of great economic growth, but also can be a curse of high unemployment. So my question is about what should the government and also us as the society should do to contribute to the success of Indonesian Golden Age? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Nico. Wow, you're visionary. Indonesian Golden Age 2045, yeah. Actually, I believe that's why, in the first discussion, I give you, picture like what happened when, I believe in slide number 3, yeah. If you take a look, slide number 3, okay, I'll take so. Here. You know what happened when, actually we live in the world with, up and down like this, yeah. And this is the situation when we experiencing, take a look, Spanish influenza, yeah. What happened when they experiencing this? I believe they have the same feeling like what we have today, but yeah, and be optimistic, and also all the downward here, contraction here, it's temporary. Yeah, finally after 4 or 5 years becoming, see, take a look. Yeah, so I think, Nico, I believe that we should optimistic. Yeah. Of course, not just government in Indonesia, but also all of Indonesian people. We are working very hard, not just in Indonesia, all over the world, to cover with the pandemic. We hoping that would be able to resolve pandemic soon. At least we could live with new normal better, yeah. And I believe after the pandemic has been, be able to resolve better, at least we know how to live with pandemic, with new normal, whatever it would be, but I believe it would be more online. So I still have an optimistic view that finally we could develop again and we could still catch up for the Indonesian Golden Age in 2045. So yeah, that's when the most important thing at this moment, actually, we have to support for the work to at least be able to handle the pandemic well, at least like vaccination, yeah, we take vaccine, then new normal, use mask, and prokes, yeah, we call it prokes in Indonesia. So I think that would help, yeah. So hoping like in 1-2 years, the pandemic will be able to handle better. We live with new normal, whatever I said, and I believe that we could then again have plan and to reach the Indonesian Golden Age. One more, I believe, yeah. I hope that I could answer your question, Nico. And one more, if there is still one.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay.
So my name is Cita Amalia Husna, and I'm from the Department of Accounting at Gadjah Mada University. And I've really amazed at your PowerPoint here, and I've wanted to ask to you regarding the financial technology, since we have a lot of things here, for example, P2P lending, payment, and other investment or insurance financial technology that we have. So my question here, it's related to what Deo had just previously mentioned about the inclusion of people in Indonesia, especially during this pandemic. So we know that P2P lending and other investment banking need some assurance for their users to be able to pay back the loans that the company had given to them through credit scoring, for example. So I've known about some type of credit scoring, especially the one that Australia had been using for this past year. It's the automated credit scoring using other non-payment types. For example, through what type of housing do they have, or for example, the quote-unquote tagihan listrik, do they pay them or not? And other example like that. So I've just wanted to ask whether Indonesia had implemented this program of alternative credit scoring through financial technology, and how does that implies to the COVID-19 pandemic for SMEs and other people around Indonesia. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, Chita. I understand that right now the fintech business, especially P2P lending, becoming I mean, it's a good thing, but there's some problem of it. And like you asking whether supposed to be credit scoring in the business of P2P, especially in fintech, and online lending, my understanding that credit scoring has been there. I mean, for like conventional bank, actually, I mean conventional. I mean like non-online bank. I mean not fintech. They have credit scoring. But for fintech, some people I understand has been proposing. I don't know whether it has been there. Because when we are talking like P2P lending, the lending is really a lot of and really a lot mess, and maybe it's not that cheap, to develop credit scoring and fast, but I believe someday somehow, I mean, because now there are some thoughts about it, I hope that would be faster, to be able to provide credit scoring for the P2P at least lending, because P2P also have to register in OJK and need permission for OJK. So hopefully that OJK at least to encourage credit scoring in the online lending. Okay, that's Chita. Okay, could I then continue because I only have 45 minutes left?
Ma'am, may I ask the last question before we continue?
Sure.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Apel and I'm from management in Universitas Gadjah Mada. So I want to ask regarding the blockchain. Bitcoin is currently a hype, especially for the younger generation during this pandemic, and actually some people use it as the alternative income. Do you think it is a good investment decision since it is very volatile, and will it bring a good impact for Indonesia's long-run economic condition?
I'm sorry, what is your first? I couldn't.
Okay. Sorry, ma'am. So since it is very volatile, do you think it is a good investment decision for, during this pandemic since some people use it as an alternative income?
Oh, for what? I mean, what kind of business? I'm sorry, couldn't understand.
Blockchain like Bitcoin.
Oh, Bitcoin. Okay. Cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency. I believe that actually the money government, I mean, central bank now around the world start, in some country has been starting to launching step-by-step cryptocurrency, central bank digital money, So that would be, I believe, our future, some country has been, pioneering and has been used I believe in one country has been used, like a central bank digital money, But you asking something else like Bitcoin, Ether, and etc. I think if we are talking like digital money would be our future, but of course, like, I mean, like the one which would be issued by central bank would be great, But if we are talking like digital money issued by something else like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, because very sensitive, volatility is high. That's why in Indonesia actually is not allowed by central bank, Bank Indonesia, to use it as medium of exchange, but you could invest it as a commodity, because of course there is some volatility in it, and my advice, I mean, it's investment, with high volatility and risky. So if you think you do not really know well, and if it is really, I mean, you do not really a lot of money for that, so don't go or don't enter that kind of investment, I think, because it's really risky and no one actually would guarantee the ability and also the value. Okay, let me. Okay, Sapel. Okay, I would then come because I only have around 45 minutes, okay, then after we take a look like e-commerce, fintech, technology, and I mean the development of e-commerce in Indonesia might be actually, I have a book about this, online or hard copy in English or in Bahasa. You could take a look if you want to know the development of e-commerce, like the birth of first commercial internet service provider, this make actually visible, like to utilize in trade, That's why in 1999, maybe you haven't really born yet, the Bineka.com is the first online platform, for buying and selling, and then Lipo Shop and a lot, but what makes really something different and develop us in 2010, the emergence of marketplace Bukalapak and Tokopedia. Then finally a lot of theater developed, established in Indonesia. What actually, when we are talking like e-commerce, what type of e-commerce? Business to business, business to consumer, consumer to consumer, and etc. Online to offline business. So, and financial technology. In 2007, so this all before the pandemic, Doku as the first fintech startup in the payment gateway. So I mean, and now a lot of it, and even there is Indonesian Fintech Association. So you could ask later in Brookway about it because their business in the fintech, And type of fintech has been asked by Cita, ya. Like peer-to-peer lending, online payment, of course, insurtech, aggregator, crowdfunding, and actually develop fast, especially during pandemic, and of course, on-demand services, in actually in line with the development of economic digital economic, on-demand service like GNA, GNP, and also develop fast. Even some of it has been going out of business. I remember we were going out of business, but Ruang Guru developed fast. And I don't know whether ticket.com is still there. Traveloka, maybe still there, but the business I quite sure for problem because not a lot of people want to travel anymore. But anyway, culinary, Grab food, GoFood, very big. Now I also say Shopee put that. I don't know whether it's Shopee put that. Anyway, it's developed fast because we doesn't want to go outside to buy food, so they come to our door using these services, But anyway, so develop a lot, And just would love to share just a little bit about the regulation supporting digital economy in Indonesia, because we thought safety, we thought support, regulatory support which needed, so we are going to have some problem, and that's why regulation also very important in developing digital economy. There are some basic rule in digital economy like undang-undang tentang informasi transaksi elektronik. This is the basic rule for the use of information technology and electronic transaction in digital-based economy. And then also a lot, you can take a look, also connected, related to e-commerce, and also some Minister of Finance, regulation like AMSA, trading through the electronic system, then also Peraturan Menteri Perdagangan about the general policy of crypto asset trading has been asked by Isabel, cannot be used as money, but can be used as asset. And Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Communication, and also Bank Indonesia, OJK, because when related with like payment system, then Bank Indonesia would be there, like PPI nomor 22 about payment system supporting the digitalization of banking as the main institution in the digital financial economy, and also OJK actually regarding information technology based lending and borrowing services, and a lot of course any other rules, regulation, also. This is Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economic Agency, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Communication, Information Technology, industry, and just would love to share with all of you that actually regarding the development of digital economy and digitalization online thing, a lot of regulation, law, and also we are talking like PPI, OJK, and all related institution under, because it is very important that the development of digital economy safe for all of us, also protect the business person who are involved in it, consumer, yeah, and also like has been asking, yeah, the concern of Theo, mentioned about, I'm sorry, Theo has been mentioned about the equality of digitalization. That's why a lot of policies has been there, regulation, to, at least give incentive, support the development of digital economy, but also at least to make it safe for all of us, convenient, not, give some difficulty and also create problem. Of course, there's still a lot of problem, especially has been asking by Chita, but actually the authority, government related, institution like PI, OJK also support to the development of digitalization economy, online business, online lending, borrowing, so that we develop, we also we could develop the digitalization, digital business, but safe for all of us and give the benefit for all of Indonesia. Anyway, but of course we are talking like digitalization. Our country also now we are working very hard to develop the digital economy, digitalization. Well, that's why there is digital competitiveness, and all of the countries also working very hard to be competitive in the world of digital now. And Indonesia, we actually, if compared to any other country, developed one, of course, we lag behind when we entering digitalization, but we are going fast. We are going to discuss it, but because we are going lag behind, even going fast, like look, digital competitiveness increasing, but because we are talking like Singapore has been really advanced in digitalization, Hong Kong, so of course we are lag behind. But what is the problem of Indonesian digital competitiveness ranking, which was really low? Actually, knowledge, knowledge we are considering low, and then technology and future readiness. So knowledge, what is knowledge? Talent. Actually, it's not talent. This is training and education, scientific concentration, technology relating with regulatory framework, capital, technology framework, future readiness. Actually, is adaptive attitude, business agility, and IT integration. anyway, so at least you've got some view picture about the level of digitalization of in Indonesia compared to any other countries. Yes, the digital economy is developing. I have explained it, yeah. So, and the pandemic has accelerated development of digitalization in the economy, yeah, and all over the world, but of course in Indonesia. That's why flight to digital is happening in all countries, including Indonesia. Yeah, you take a look at this picture data. Despite the global recession, the pandemic has led to a further acceleration of digital transformation. Take a look here. Global trend, e-commerce, before pandemic 14%, now has been last year 17%, and of course the other, you could take a look there. And automation and digitalization, yeah, actually accelerated in digitalization of supply chain, digitalization of customer channel, digitalization of employee interaction and collaboration, automation, artificial intelligence. There is some acceleration during COVID-19, yeah. So the crisis has accelerated digitalization, yeah. Not just in Indonesia, all over the world, yeah. Because the pandemic reduced in-person interaction and then put premium on digitalization and automation, yeah. This is some data. If you take a look from 2019 to 2020, it's only 1 year increasing total internet user in Southeast Asia, 40 million. Here, 5 years, only increase 100. So there is some, like I have mentioned before, digital flight, yeah, so fast. If you take a look like internet economy, yeah, develop fast, yeah, this 19 to 2020, yeah, in Indonesia and also in Southeast Asia, yeah. So you know, and actually take a look Indonesian data. 37% of new digital customer is actually new, yeah. If you take asking me like me, I am including here using online services mostly because of pandemic, yeah. So that's what happened in Indonesia during the pandemic. People use more online. Actually, especially mostly from non-metro. Metro is Jakarta and surrounding area. So we are in Jogja, it's non-metro. So like us in Jogja use more and more online because of pandemic. And take a look, Vietnam and Indonesia. Yeah, it's the Indonesia will be still increase high, yeah. The growth of digitalization in Indonesia and Vietnam, Indonesia 23% for the next 5 years. Vietnam, Philippines 30%, but last year we are 11%. And in Indonesia, e-commerce developed really fast, 54% because of the pandemic. Yeah, of course, transport, online travel, contraction, online media increasing. Yeah. Then let's take a look. More micro firm and firm in the low value added and manufacturing sector went digital, between June, October 2020. Take a look, micro, from here to here, low value added from here to here compared to high value added from here to here, or large from here to here. So actually what go more digital, actually micro firm and low value added firm. And what's interesting, actually, most firms adjusted to COVID-19 by going digital. This based on World Bank survey. And like the data, the digitalization growth by the pandemic. Look here, Bukalapak, 9 million seller 2019, becoming 13.5 million seller in 2020. Tokopedia from 7.3 February 2020, and 10 million in April 2021. And you could take a look later, And more, actually, because of the pandemic especially, there are now 7 banks on Indonesia that have claimed themselves as digital bank. I will read also some bank, in progress. This is in progress. This is the impact of digitalization. And we have Unicorn, even Gojek, Tokopedia, merge. They also Bukalapak, they want to go on go public, and the sales via e-commerce transaction, especially during the pandemic, food, beverage, groceries, fashion, other categories, health services, and of course, if we take a look at the data, this is before the pandemic, during the pandemic. Look, masker, and this is data plan, and this is this is food, supplement food increase, so a little bit some shifting type of sales via e-commerce, and of course if you're talking like percentage of e-commerce business by province, still there is some disparities in Indonesia, and I would love to answer actually Theo question, e-commerce player in Indonesia, this is the richest 20%, middle and poor. So that the richest, especially actually the dominant player in e-commerce in Indonesia. And the digital finance landscape in Indonesia increase also, number of borrowers, the number of loan disbursement. Now, actually, this is March 2021, and most of the fintech ecosystem in Indonesia, actually P2P lending, and the user especially 19 to 34 years, also for the borrower, especially here, the young person, and also number of electronic transaction and fintech payment transaction increase dramatically from here to here, and also development of new economy here now, like Gojek, taxi driver more than 2 million, Grab more than 1 million, Bukalapak joining more than 6 million. I mean, you know, take a look, yeah. So some actually just would love to share with all of you that some progress, yeah, during and after pandemic, yeah, because a lot of, you know, development and grew fast during the development in some areas and also in some business, yeah. And actually, even during the pandemic and after the pandemic, lifestyle will be healthier and use more digital, yeah. Like I mentioned before in the first discussion, public service will be, even now you take a look, almost all online, yeah, almost, yeah. It might be sometimes not easy to use it, yeah. Digital economy develop fast, working, learning, meeting, social gathering more online. Gig economy of freelancer grow faster. Digitalization such as automatization, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things develop fast. Demand for faster internet is increased. Yeah, now we are talking like 5G. Even there are some areas that 2G. Yeah, but we have think that putting more and more 4G and 5G in Indonesia. Of course, legal certainty and safety using online is very important. So this is some issue. And just would love to share with all of you that the whole economy, yeah, finally would be digitalized. So now we are talking like digital economy, but maybe in 10 years, 20 years, when we are talking economy, it's all digitalizing. So all economy is digitalizing, yeah, that would be our future. And there are 4 sectors which will be high demand in the post-COVID era: fashion, healthcare, fintech, retail, e-commerce, yeah. The one who stay cashless and contactless commerce, delivery, robotics, sanitation, virtual event, technology investment, shop and source local. But of course, I would also share with all of you that this is based on McKinsey. Yeah, COVID-19 has prompted consumer and business behavior shift, many of it will persist to varying degree in the long run. So if you take a look like e-commerce, yeah, evolution on demand, actually this is before, during the pandemic, after the pandemic. Take a look here that pandemic increasing the use of e-commerce, but even after pandemic, actually, yeah, if you believe in McKinsey projection, will still be there. I mean, why? Because convenient for consumer, then search in new user during pandemic, rising adoption and digital payment during the pandemic. And also this is automation, yeah, automation adoption will be still there, but if we take a look like restaurant delivery, which increased dramatically during pandemic, would be lessened, but still, yeah, increase, but yeah, because we enjoy eating at restaurant, right? So some business would be still there, some would be online and offline. Still use more online, but of course offline still there. Like online education, yeah, some still use online, but also offline will be there anyway. And this is economic digital development. If you want to read it, like what will be developed in the future, I mean, look yourself because we had last time, like in e-commerce, yeah. So logistic will be used more AI system, same-day delivery, circular economy and sharing economy, something like that. And also because the disruption, digitalization, there will be, work landscape, yeah, emerging, some declining, yeah. The variant growth and declining, yeah, like analytical thinking and innovation growing, manual dexterity, endurance precision declining, active learning and learning strategies increasing, critical thinking, analysis increasing. So, but reading, writing, math, and active listening would be declining. So, I mean, would be some, shifting in the job potential, yeah. And the online lifestyle will continue. I mean, this is like, if you take a look in Indonesia, this survey by ISAP, 74% mentioned working from home actually is an alternative option in work. I mean, people that what we want, but of course depend on the company. And also Redseer survey 2020, also 77% consumer expect their online spend to stay sticky. Yes, this online, yeah. And even this is the new survey, January 2021, based on US currently working from home, that remote workers actually are reluctant to return to the workplace. I mean, anyway, what is the conclusion? Yeah, actually, digital economic transformation has grown rapidly in the last decade. I have mentioned before, 2010 with the Tokopedia, Bukalapak, and of course Gojek, yeah. The pandemic has accelerated the development of the digital economy, yeah, shifting, yeah, growing fast during the pandemic because of the new normal. We don't have any other choice. I want to buy something because of the limited movement, yeah. So even in some kampung, they are locked down their kampung. So yeah, so we used to use digital. Online lifestyle economy will stay. Some will be hybrid, online and offline after pandemic has been, we have discussed before. Like e-commerce, I think would be, develop fast, even maybe also realize some hybrid because like in pasar, yeah, we still love, yeah. I mean, I like sometimes to go to pasar, yeah, to connecting, yeah, in seperti like bakmi Java, yeah. I mean, it would be great if we could eat, yeah, in the warung, yeah. Digital economy will grow deeper and broader in all economic sectors and regions. Yeah, even now digital divide, but yeah, I believe that will be a broader, deeper. Yeah, more quality. The inequality, I think, would be less than economic sectors will digitalize. Yeah. In 1 or 2 decades, yeah. I'm not quite sure whether how fast it is, but maybe in some area, I think in Singapore, and I believe that now has been digitalized, and also in Japan, maybe in Indonesia, need 1 decade or 2 more decades. Like I have mentioned before, there is society 2.0, 3.0, 5.0 coexist in Indonesia, but anyway, it's also depend how, of course, us and also policies and also support given by the authority. And of course, business should anticipate, respond, adjust if we want to survive or grow. Okay, I think that would I love to share with all of you. And now, please, if there is some question, I would love to take your question.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Wilma Aziza, and as you say before,
excuse me, what is your name?
Wilma Aziza.
Wilma, okay, Wilma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. As you say before, that pandemic has led the acceleration of digital transformation that marked by the increase of digital transaction globally and significantly. But how about the sustainability of the e-commerce? Isn't there gonna be a shifting in consumer behavior? Because I think a lot of people like to do their activity and business without social or physical distancing. Thank you.
If I'm not wrong, your question is whether e-commerce would be sustainable.
Yes, because I think a lot of people like to do their business without physical or social distancing. Isn't it gonna be consumer behavior shifting, maybe?
Okay, yeah. Okay, Wilma. Yeah, actually, might be you and the person who still like to go to do some shopping. Yeah. I'm not quite sure whether that after the pandemic, we would love to do or to shop, like going to mall, go to market. Yeah. I think that for myself, yeah, there is some buying I would love to do it online, but there is some I would love to go, like going to warung bakmi Jawa. I would love to go there, but going like buying rice, yeah, buying beras, yeah. I would love to go to use online. I mean, that's why it would be blended between online and offline. What I understand that a lot of young person, even they prefer to use online more and more. So if we take a look like McKinsey survey, yeah, they mentioned that actually e-commerce penetration using online will be increased because more convenient, cheaper. You could choose and buy, compare one another so easily. So yeah, I think that would be still sustainable. So would be blended between online and offline. That's what I think. Thank you. Okay. What do you think?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Aziza. Any other question?
Hello, ma'am. May I ask?
Yes.
Okay, so I think since we don't have a lot of time, I think I'll just go to my question. So as you know, the informal sector is quite large in Indonesia, and thus the pandemic has affected them quite significantly. And in recent news, we also know that many of these producers are suffering from the tighter government regulation in their conduct. So do you think that with digitalization and the inclusion of these informal producers into the digital economy could help lift them out of their situation? And if so, how significant will this effect be to lift them out of poverty in Indonesia?
Okay, Muhammad. Actually, if you take a look what happened, I also following Sunju. You know Sunju, yeah? Sambatan Sukses. Sunju has been developed by Pak Rimawan and his friend. They have the SMEs to use online, even also like doing export, yeah, sell stuff to foreign, yeah, countries, and also a lot of society, us, yeah, help people to sell online, and I think during the pandemic, also government, central government, local government, and even business like Bukalapak, Tokopedia, they also have a society, small business to go online. And yeah, I think a lot and more informal, micro, small business go online. And this morning, I listened from chairman of Koperasi pedagang kaki lima, I think something like that, yeah, mentioned that if they are not going online, actually their sales decrease 90%. If they go online, their sales decrease for 50%. So it's really hard even for pedagang kaki lima. So and you know, even now GrabFood, GoFood, there are so many of their sellers also ke pedagang kaki lima, informal, sektor informal, ya. And that's why I think it's helped. And if you asking me whether they will be sustained after the pandemic, I think yes, because like now, if you like my husband, now sometimes we want to go to get like bubur ayam Jakarta, ya, bubur ayam. Then just use online, then get it. I mean, so convenient, so easy, and I think would be still there because even before the pandemic, many of the youngest also has used online to buy foods, especially informal sector, and also some stuff from small business. So I think would be help, and there will be some after pandemic still be there, I think. What do you think?
I think that would be great. I think that's enough. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Muhammad. Any other question?
Ma'am, may I ask another question?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so it's me again. My name is Cita Maria. I really wanted to ask regarding the what you've said about the financial technology again, since I'm really interested in the topic of financial technology. And maybe as we all know that Indonesia had merged all of the financial services into one categories, namely KRIS, that was developed by Bank Indonesia. So my question is related to what KRIS had been implemented to a lot of organization and maybe small businesses in Indonesia, because I think the main objective that KRIS wanted to solve is to integrate all of the platforms. But I don't know about the current situation right now, because the pandemic had affected a lot of the business. So a lot of them we cannot use KRIS. So what do you think about the other implication of KRIS itself? Thank you.
Okay, Cita. I believe that KRIS has been used also by SMEs, yeah, because Bank Indonesia really working very hard to make it CRIS used by a lot of business person, not just big, but also SMEs. Yeah, I remember before the pandemic, I went to Singapore and there is a area that's for kaki lima, yeah, kaki lima area, and when at that time, how do we have to pay the food we buy? We use online. I mean, like QR code. So it's been used there in Singapore before the pandemic, and I believe in Indonesia. I remember there is one pasar rakyat in Bekasi or in Jakarta. I forgot. Or in Bogor, I forgot, but in that pasar rakyat, actually they are not using cash anymore. But I'm not quite sure whether they use CRIS, but I think mostly probably they would use CRIS because CRIS widely used in Indonesia and supported by Bank Indonesia. So yeah, I think would be the future. CRIS is one of the platform of payment system developed fast in Indonesia and used not just by big but also SMEs. Yeah. Okay, Sita. Any other questions?
Ma'am, may I ask a question?
Please.
Yeah, so my name is Elena and I'd like to ask a question. So we have known that due to this pandemic, many companies have applied working from home system, and some of them even plan to continue having this system permanently after the pandemic. And my question is that how do you think this will affect the productivity of workers in the long term? Perhaps will it result in a more efficient system or the other way around? Thank you.
I'm sorry, Elena. What is your first question? I mean, your question in the first what I couldn't listening well.
Oh, I mean, during this pandemic, many companies have applied the working from home system. Yeah, and some of them even plan to continue to apply it permanently after the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Elena. I think, remember I have show to you the survey, yeah, like you said, a survey 74%. Actually, people, respondent would love to work from home and also go to office. So blended, yeah. Even in US, I has mentioned before, they reluctant to return to workplace. Anyway, your question, yeah, directly. Maybe you could ask Pak Hendro quick, because as far as I understand, PayPass 100% now online, and it has been more than 1 year, and I think this year they are going also still online. Ask him, yeah, ask him, because he is the owner of PayPass. So what will be his policy regarding with the work from home? Because like PayPass, maybe they could 100% work from home, because they could working no need to go to office for the delivery services. But in general, I think it depends on the office we are working. Or you are working, yeah, because like the one could be the delivery could be online, maybe would be better not to rent office, because it's really very expensive to rent office, yeah. But of course, like if we are talking retail, yeah, retail they still need to, yeah, even online, offline, but still even online, still the one who preparing the packaging still need some staff come to their office. So I believe it would be more blended and more flexibility in the working place, like can be work from home and if necessarily to should come to office, and but some of course might be like if working in telecommunication for like to safeguard the services who work well, need to deal with machinery. Yeah, I believe they still need to come to office. So, but it is more interesting because after the COVID, I think would be more blended. Yeah, with working from home, more efficient for the company as the past. Yeah, of course, then so would be better for the business person. Okay, Arena.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, still one more question?
Yeah, so I would like to share my opinion regarding your conclusion.
I'm
sorry. My name is Carlin. I'm sorry.
Carlin. Okay.
Yeah, and I would like to share my opinion regarding your conclusion about lifestyle. It will be healthier because of this digital transformation. I have my opinion, which is I think it depends on the person because this digital transformation, it makes us spending more time in front of the laptop and in front of our smartphone, which is it could be increase the possibility to have the eye fatigue or ear disease. And also for me, it's I don't know. I tend to be lazier to move out from my comfort zone. So I think it could be like ending in obesity. So yeah, I just want to make my opinion about that. That's the first one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I understand what you mean, but what I mean by healthier because we wash hand often.
I see.
More clean. I'm sorry, yeah.
It's okay. So it's more awareness for us, right?
It's like what I healthier in physical, I mean, yeah. But of course, in that area, I agree with you. It's not easy to be just in front of laptop and cannot go that. But it depends on the person, especially. But for like physically, we should be more clean compared to before the pandemic.
Yeah, I agree, ma'am. So the next one, I'm sorry, may I continue? So because I still have my question, it's regarding to the economic area, especially in logistic. As you know, our logistic, all people it's using more online shopping, e-commerce is really increased so high. So I would like to ask about the employee who deliver the products that we bought online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as you know, in Amazon, in US, recently they have like a big problem because the employees is like tortured about this new digital transformation, which is they have high loading to deliver the products to the customers, so they have no time to rest, and its impact on their healthy also in decreasing in their healthy life. So what do you think about this? What should the company do to help the employers, or just solve this problem?
Okay. I'm not quite sure what happened with Amazon, but I think, because in the US also to get employee because of the high salary, maybe they want to keep, low efficient, low cost. But in Indonesian case, I think to get people to work because salary low, even like driver Gojek, Ubud, Shopee Food is so easy. I mean, maybe in Indonesian case won't be really big problem. Yeah. But in the US, I believe that could be a problem. That's why here, even all the logistic using motorcycles really work well, even so easy to find driver. So I think would be until I think 5 to 10 years would be really serious problem in Indonesia. Thank you. Okay, sorry, it has been 10 o'clock, and I would love to, return to the Mbak Sima. Whether I should just close the class myself.
Okay, thank you very much for your explanations, Professor Adinin. So that was very insightful and very enlightening. I learned so much. I don't know, because I keep taking notes, and I think I have spent like 4 or 5 pages of books just taking on the keynotes that you have been delivered. That's really, really insightful digitization talk today. Well, thank you so much, Professor Ajiningsih. I hope that you are staying healthy, staying happy, and we're going to see you again in the next sessions. Yeah. Thank you very much. Please welcome a big round of virtual applause for Professor Ajiningsih, please.